Joining us live in the studio is the former Home Affairs Secretary, long-time senior public servant in Australia, Michael Pezzullo. Thanks for your time. You gave a significant speech yesterday on defence acquisition. I want to talk to you about that because it is of huge importance to our strategic future. Your view on that, I want to see what you think. But on Assange, what do you make of it? A lot of fanfare around his return and how the government should necessarily welcome him back to Australia.
Well, Kieran, just as a personal view, in my view, he's not a hero. He shouldn't be treated as a hero, but he is an Australian citizen who was deserving of consular support, as the Prime Minister has said. We are rule of law countries, whether it's the UK, Australia or the US. A judicial process was followed. A criminal justice process has now come to, it appears, a conclusion where he's pleaded guilty. He will soon be a convicted felon. That's our justice process working. And as I understand it, the judge is going to attribute the time served as being time served against the felony that he's now been convicted of. That should be the end of the matter, but he's certainly no hero in my view.
He's seen as a warrior for free speech, free media by some, as you've rightly pointed out, others. We heard Jane Hume there, and I'm sure many of our viewers would be of the view that he is not a hero, as you've said, but has he served his time regardless, whether you love him or loathe him?
I think, look, irrespective of the view that you might have about the transgression, we have to accept the fact that a criminal justice process is now concluded or is about to conclude. And like anyone, he's entitled to be treated fairly under the law. If the judge says, yes, you've pleaded guilty, you are therefore guilty of this crime, but you've done your time, you're free to go, then that should be the end of the matter. I should say on the actual so-called publication, and I won't say journalism, whether it's the disclosures that he engaged in with Chelsea Manning or the Snowden disclosures, it's incredibly reckless just to simply tip documents of that nature and character out en bulk. Journalism, as I understand it, it's your profession, not mine, involves a very careful consideration of the material, validating your sources, understanding the possible harm and the public interest. That is journalism. It's not clear to me that this is journalism.
And just finally, before we move on to the defence production issue, would it be unusual, do you think, if senior members of the government were to welcome Assange at the airport, as they would, say, a visiting dignitary or a visiting head of state? Well, would you be surprised if, say, the Foreign Minister or Prime Minister showed up at the airport?
Well, I'm not aware that that's in prospect. I find it perplexing. I mean, on the one hand, we either say he's a citizen who's entitled to consular support, and Prime Ministers and other senior members of government don't turn up to welcome someone who returns who's been through a difficult consular matter, or we say that he's a celebrity. We have to choose one or the other. And I think my view is that he's a citizen who is deserving of consular support and therefore shouldn't be given any special treatment above and beyond that. And certainly any kind of celebrity status, I think, would be deeply troubling.
Now, you gave that significant address yesterday and proposed a Defence Production Commission. Why?
I'm concerned about a number of things, Kieran. Regrettably, and it pains me to say this, that the demand for defence material, weapons of war, as horrible as it is to say this, is going to increase in the next few years. Wars in Europe, the Middle East, and potentially in the Indo-Pacific area mean that the aggregate demand for defence equipment is going to increase. If we just simply take our place in the queue and wait for global supply chains, or indeed local supply chains, to satisfy the needs of the ADF, we're going to be found wanting and potentially defenceless. We have to increase the capacity of industry to generate, regrettably, those weapons of war, given what is likely, what unfortunately is looming as a possible war in the Pacific.
You've also warned, you're saying it's a possible war, but the possibility that you're suggesting, and we should remind our viewers that you were the author of the Defence White Paper back 15 years ago.
2009.
2009.
Yes,
15 years ago.
Yes.
So that was, you recommended a whole range of things, but they have not happened. So we're playing catch up.
Well, I fear that the catch-up moment has passed. The time to deliver major platforms like submarines, which are very complex machines, frigates and other major platforms, the time has run out in the time frame of the possibility of conflict in the Pacific. William Burns, the director of the CIA, said last year, and I'm quoting on the public record material, I'm not referring to any classified information that I might be privy to or might have been privy to at one time. He's saying that in 2027, they have intelligence to suggest that the president of China has directed the PLA to be ready to launch an invasion. He hasn't made a decision to invade. Now, 2027, Kieran, is less than 3 years away, because if you look at tides and typhoons, the optimal time to invade would be about April. That's 33 months away. So we've run out of time for the major platforms. Now it's about bulking up the ADF that we have with as much by way of munitions, explosives, weapons, torpedoes, mines, etc., that we can possibly arm them up with should tragically war come.